Hello and welcome to the Great Cosmic Shift with Cyrus Kirkpatrick, that's me, and tonight we are talking about a timeline as we crunch down how the shift occurs, what's going on with all these prophecies of ascension events that you hear about on the internet, a little bit more about what it means to be in a quote 5D shift, what we can expect going forward, what are realistic timelines, realistic numbers about when we can expect pretty big changes to be occurring in society. If I can, I'll toss in a few anecdotes and my efforts on the ground, trying to help enable the shift. And I'll talk about that more in future videos. There's a few of us around the world who are actually involved with trying to get the shift up and running, trying to get the engine started. And it doesn't just involve mass meditations, it actually involves on-the-ground integration efforts. So with that said, let's go ahead and run the intro. Okay everybody, we are back. Well, before we begin, as usual, this is a new channel, and my old channel is called Afterlife Topics. My Gmail was hacked. My YouTube is no longer accessible. I am an author of books like Understanding Life After Death, The Afterlife and Beyond, co-author of books like Awakened by Death. And if you're a fan of my old work, well, this is the channel to be, because I can no longer access my old page. But that's okay, because already this channel is growing. Even though it's small, it's growing faster than my old channel did. And so I feel optimistic about that. You can find me, of course, on Afterlife Topics. You can support this work because I again have a Patreon up and running. So that would be at patreon.com/Afterlife Topics. Predominantly, I would talk about the mysteries of life after death, which of course ties into all the stuff we talk about here. So if you join at the $20 and above level, then I will be again hosting bi-weekly to weekly classes and sessions, channeling sessions, telepathy instructional sessions, and just kind of an inner circle that will be available to people who are involved in all of this and want to be involved with me directly again. So consider that at Afterlife, rather patreon.com/Afterlife Topics, or just reach out to me directly if you want to at cosmicshiftawakening@gmail.com. Okay, so with that said, let's go ahead and actually dive in to the realistic timeline and what to expect. I actually have some coffee here in case my throat gets dry. I think over my cold, which is good. You know how we get all woo-woo around here. Even my cold wasn't exactly what people think was going on. It wasn't just a seasonal allergy. I am told it was spreading around because it was more like an allergen that is being used to help inoculate us for when we might be in a lot of contact with worlds beyond this one, which it sounds almost ridiculous, even sounds ridiculous to me. But when you begin looking under different veils, you'll be surprised what you uncover in the invisible realities that are happening all around us. So let's first go over what will not occur. So the internet is chock full of ideas about the Ascension event. The internet is chock full of ideas about what will actually happen when this great shift or this so-called grand awakening happens. There's all kinds of different ideas. Apologize for the sound of my spoon clinking. There's all kinds of ideas. One of these ideas is that it's like this rapture event where we all shoot through the roof and immediately we were all like super powerful, wise beings. There was other mythologies that I didn't put in here, such as the idea that only 300,000 people will qualify. No, there's truth behind some of those elements, rapture events and things like that. But in essence, what we're looking at is a lot of confusion on the internet, basically, about what's going on, and confusion about kind of like there's a lot of wishful thinking in terms of not only deadlines and dates, but how this process works. And it's difficult to wade through it all. And when I was first dipping my toe into this, a lot of it was through, let's say, David Wilcock. And David Wilcock gets a lot of stuff right, and I like David Wilcock. But the thing is, there was not a single person in my team, which is clairaudient, telepathy, manifestation experiences, and even face-to-face meetings, that have ever said that there will be anything akin to a solar ascension event, also known as the Samvardhaka fires. Now, this is kind of Hindi mythology, but it also ties into something that a lot of people on the internet talk about. I don't mean Wilcock, I mean Corey Good, I mean a lot of these guys. And we're all going to rise up. Basically, there's going to be like this huge solar flash, and we're all going to rise up into the higher density. We're going to, at that point, hit 5th density, and we'll be living in a paradise. Well, yeah, this is a very powerful mythology that's rooted right now on the internet, and unfortunately I will have to say that this is not going to happen. Also, that physically doesn't make sense. The sun does not have great power. Actually, the earth has great power, the power of Gaia. The sun is actually a sun. It's one star among, I guess I sound like the Tommy Lee Jones's character in Men in Black. It's like Orion's belt is not, there's no such thing as a galaxy hidden on Orion's belt. Okay, same thing. There's no such thing as our sun having the power to do something like that. It's just one star, one sun around among hundreds of billions of stars in the Milky Way Gemini galaxy. It's one star, and it doesn't have powers to ascend all of us into a higher cosmos. Okay, so that's not actually going to happen. Now, I'm not saying there isn't truth behind the Samvardhaka fires and how all this may play in to certain levels when we explore the magical elements of life. And the magical elements of life is a big deal. The magical elements is something I never understood as a young paranormal researcher out there studying seances, going to seances, studying the afterlife and the spirit realities. One thing that a word I was always allergic to was magic. Not anymore. Magic is now a big part of my life, and it's very difficult to understand these events without going into magic. So, the premise is also wrong. We don't ascend this way. Ascension, I would say, is called karmic ascension. It means that you reach a point in your psychology whereupon you are no longer, shall we say, able to commit evil deeds. And this is actually what the Buddhists meant about stopping the cycle of reincarnation, is that if you hit that point, you don't have to keep reincarnating to try to get it right. You reach a point where you are karmically ascended, where you couldn't hurt somebody even if you had all the temptation in the cosmos. Not all the tea in China, nor all the gold in Africa. Nothing will tempt you to hurt an innocent person. This is called being karmically ascended, and it's actually common because most souls don't want to hurt and cause chaos and destroy people. On Earth, there has been an abundance of souls that want to hurt, cause chaos, and destroy people. It's been so bad, this has been one of the major problems. So it's actually quite common to be karmically ascended, right? And so ascension, in a sense, is a personal journey of reaching a point of achieving a status as a magical being. And as a magical being, you also gain powers that you could liken to what has been spoken of on the internet, where you do not age if you do not want to age. If you don't want your hair growing longer than it's growing, you can even alter that. Your body is in full magical control of itself. And this can be done without technological methods. And you can do things, you can teleport, you can produce more of yourselves, you can do all this type of thing. This is reaching a magical being status. The Samvartika fires, this kind of mythology on the internet, what it's teaching is that everybody can ascend and reach that status just because the sun pumps you full of some kind of power, energy, and then you whoosh. The great shift is going to happen, but we don't have to worry about a giant solar flare that's going to happen. It's not going to happen. And if there were a giant solar flare that's going to happen, the Arcturans would blast the sun with some kind of a massive magnetic pulse, and they would prevent it. Arcturans, for example, can block stars from even combusting. So you can have a star around a civilization that's been there for billions and billions of years without the star ever going nova. They have the technologies to preserve stars and planets to keep civilizations going for billions and billions of years. And Arcturans are planet's caretakers. Okay. What will also not happen? Mass UFO landings. Those could happen someday, but nothing like that. Our collective consciousness would never allow that. There would be mass anxiety, people falling over dead, if something like this were to happen. There will not be fake alien invasions. Now, why do I put this in here? Well, who has spoken of that the most? I would say one Commander Randy Kramer, who I'm a big fan of, as well as all the secret space program insiders. So much of that work is real, but Kramer was unwittingly working for a more nefarious faction without realizing it, and they had a plan to create a fake alien invasion as a way to integrate the planet and get over this hump by pretending to be aliens, jumping out of a ship with a big rubber suit on, and shocking the collective consciousness into accepting the realities of ET life that can come in and help us and help cure terrible diseases. So, there was no fake alien invasion happening. This was actually, let's call what it is, the shadow government. I'm going to watch YouTube censors. I can't call it the DEEP, something. It's called the shadow government, and factions of the shadow government, or let's say the cabal, that wanted to do a fake ET invasion, but that's not right. Okay, let's see. What else we have here? Okay, the mass casualty events in war. That's not going to happen either. So there's a lot of people who are thinking about there's going to be an event, a shift, something like that. And there's going to be some kind of a massive casualty event that's going to come into play, and we should be in fallout shelters. We should be, for example, stocking up, being preppers. Well, the whole point of this process is to also stop that from happening, so there isn't some kind of mass casualty event. There is no prophecy of mass casualty events. In fact, prophecies in general are always prone to error because there's no such thing as literally seeing the future or literally going forward in time. Those are things that do not happen. These are like things that people believe can happen, but there's no such thing as future time travel. You can look at timelines, they're called, but you cannot know precisely whatever is going to happen in the future at any point ever. That's one of these are like the basic principles that those of us in communication with higher powers are taught. And if you are being taught those things by higher powers, your communication is broken. You're communicating to someone else, you're communicating to some kind of weird soul collective that's putting misinformation. So you cannot time travel into the future and see some kind of massive war happening. Okay. So, what really will occur is a mass awakening of 100 million plus Aldebaran, Ashtari, Arcturan, and other extraterrestrial visitors hiding in, quote, plain sight. And this is something I've already been able to experience firsthand. So, I do hope that I'm something of an objective researcher who can come out with realism and be able to describe what's actually happening, what through telepathic, clairaudient channels of communication, implant-enhanced channels of communication, what these groups are actually doing, what they're actually all about, what they're actually talking about, and being able to go on the ground firsthand and experience just what this shift is all about. I found out that the shift actually means mass awakening. It's a mass awakening of 100 million plus. Who are they? They are people from the stars, from the cosmos, who live amongst us, and they have to keep their identities completely secret, because if they don't, the collective consciousness would be so shocked, surprised, overjoyed, whatever the case might be, by them, that they will focus all their energy like this. So they'll just hone in on whoever it is and then blast them with psychic energy. This can be positive energy, negative energy. Regardless, it's energy, because it's so out of the ordinary. It's a paranormal event. It's so beyond belief that if just one of these guys were to even so much as wink that they are actually, for example, an Ashtari from the Andromeda galaxy, then they will be basically attacked. Now, this attack doesn't mean that the collective consciousness of people watching and everybody wants to hurt them, but it happens inadvertently when there's mass attention from billions of very powerful minds focusing on one person. This creates, shall we say, a very dangerous situation. Now, these people are all over the place. They're in mass media. They're in businesses. They might be working at the shop down the street. They're trying to unravel all the evil and strange elements and non-sophisticated elements of our society to replace them with how a society should actually function. And they've been doing this for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. In operations, they arrive by splicing themselves in. So they might arrive at age 14 by putting themselves in a new body, and suddenly they're in an Ashtari family, and you have an Ashtari girl going to Ashtari junior high. Well, not Ashtari junior high, but going to a junior high school, which actually might have a lot of Ashtari in it, because everyone is secretly working for a little collective without anyone realizing it. And they all communicate with each other mentally by mental syncing. When you learn how to mental sync, you can begin communicating to them. You'll find out that your friend down the street was a space alien this whole time. So this is how they operate, but they all have to be completely secret because the collective consciousness structure doesn't allow them to break character. Well, right now it is, because the shift. The shift is the mass integration that helps the population accept that they're normal, they're not higher than high beings, and they're like us. Do not focus all of your attention upon them at once, because it will destroy them. The collective consciousness has to be trained not to do this, and also has to be trained not to kick them off into parallel, like we can call them planes, timescapes. Like, if things get too crazy on this planet, the collective consciousness of Gaia is so strong, it can take an event where, let's say a UFO lands. It can take the whole event and put it into a big illusion. I've been talking about this in prior videos. I call it the firewall. The idea is to stop that from happening. The idea is to integrate the collective consciousness so that people do not have panic attacks when it starts happening. That it's okay if somebody is Ashtari. One issue is if you go on the internet, the Ashtari are almost like gods to us. If you look them up on Wikipedia, look them up online, there's a beautiful Ashtari woman named Maria Orsic. I should have put a photo up of her. I think I will in a future presentation. The Ashtari are usually most familiarized with going to East Europe and Russia. I am familiar with many Ashtari in Russia trying to subvert Vladimir Putin. Like the Ashtari, I call them space Russians. They are not gods, they are from the Andromeda galaxy. And from what I've been able to view and even visit these types of places, Ashtari cities are sometimes kind of plain looking. You have lots of like white marble looking buildings, people walking around. They're not very commercial centric. Honestly, it reminds me of Russia, which is what's funny. So they are our space Russian friends. All the barons are our space Hispanic friends. Arcturians are little blue people, but they can assume human form easily. And it's a big party out there in space. It's also all the higher density cosmos. So none of these guys exist in our universe. They all exist up a notch in the fifth density and above. And the fifth density shift is us joining into their universe. And that universe is a wild and crazy universe where we all have... The fifth density shift is literally what people say on the internet about us gaining power, us being able to experience things, everybody communicating mentally, having an expanded third eye, experiencing a magical power flow through you as your molecular density level changes. You experience the magic and the energy all around you on a higher level. Like, ascending and rising up into that universe really is amazing, but it's not something to make a religion out of. It's a natural process when a low density universe or a planet in a low density gradient can be picked up and placed into the high density. And that's what this is about. So anyway, I'm already experiencing firsthand these visitors breaking their character in ways they've never have before. I have literally sat down with people who have identified themselves as being not from this world. Doing that caused a massive collective consciousness attack on that person. I later learned she almost died because she went ahead and told me that once. And this happened like 2 weeks ago. And I've been communicating with her mentally ever since to make sure she's okay. But it was a huge gamble on her part doing that. And this was because I sat down, I spoke to her for about an hour. And where was this? At a strip club. I spoke about this in the prior video. So, or maybe this was on my Facebook page. I don't know. But anyway, I spoke to someone who was literally... she was from a different group, actually, a different human group, but she was one of these splice-ins. And she said, I'm not a normal girl. You have to understand that. And she said it in her own words. Pretty soon, we're all going to be hitting the 5th density. She said this on her own, without me prompting her. She just started blurting this stuff out of me. And this was her breaking her character and telling me specifically who she is, while we were also practicing a little bit of mental telepathy, and she recognized that as well. So like this girl, this lady, I'm told, is almost like a saint because she was one of the first people on our planet to begin breaking her character. And she was testing the waters, and it was very dangerous. The shift is when all these people wake up. So also what will occur? So higher density shift into 5th density to join the normal higher cosmos. I spoke about this already. What are these densities? Well, again, there's misinformation online. It's like there's 29 densities and we're getting closer and closer to becoming God again. Well, that's also not true. The nature of God is individuality. We can all experience God, but the purpose of life isn't to become God and then to throw our old lives away because we've ascended and we've become God. This is actually called a false light teaching. The false light teachings are all over the New Age movement. The false light teachings often hijack our near-death experiences when people are going toward the light. It's not that the light is a soul trap, but the light is often based upon a premise of confusion, because sometimes, not always, the light are the souls of our departed loved ones and ancestors who collectivize together and show enormous love to somebody entering the spirit body. The purpose of the spirit body is tethered to a silver cord, as we all know. Our Arcturian friends, others can do this, the Ashtari can do this, the Aldebaran priesthoods can do this. They'll take someone's spirit body that has the silver cord power wrapped around it. They'll pick them up and bring them on over to, let's say, the higher density cosmos, and their body will manifest. It will materialize into a new physical body in the higher density. And then you'll be vitalized, you'll become young again, your illnesses will go away, and you will now be up into higher density. People mistake this process for like an ascension up to God because it seems so divine and so wondrous. Well, it is divine, it is wondrous, but there's no such thing as becoming God again and then closing the book. That's life. Nope. The nature of God is actually individuality. And if this were the case, that we're all just waiting to become God and we throw away the burdens of physicality, well, then let's all go there immediately and give up and surrender our lives immediately, because we can all become perfect beings again. Well, again, this is that weird philosophy that percolates into the New Age movement. My Ashtari, Aldebaran, Andromedan, Arcturian friends all call this the false light teachings, because none of this will fly so much in the higher cosmos. There was a philosophy like this which took over parts of the Andromeda galaxy for billions of years, and this was the Ashtari offshoots known as the Aldmari. The Aldmari, we know them in our culture as the ones who operate the Black Knight satellite. And the Almari believed this and became a giant kind of collective, a giant kind of communist utopia with a lot of problems attached to it, because they could never actually unify and, quote, become God. They wanted to, but they were always blocked by by this nagging phenomenon called individuality of souls. They could go into the spirit realities, try to become one great cosmic creator again, but it doesn't work because we're still individual souls, and the part of life is hitting a karmic ascension point. It's not to toss away our individualities and then become some giant amorphous collective. This is part of a philosophical path that happens on Earth that people talk about, but it's a teaching that can actually cause a civilization many, many problems as the civilization continues. And so that is something that I'm told as a civilization we should resist, focus more on karmic ascension, being good people who can't hurt innocent people, right? Easy. Like you take someone on the street, say, would you take a bunny rabbit and hurt the bunny rabbit in the most terrible way imaginable for $1 million? You would be surprised how many people would say yes. Be like, well, if I can get away with it, I'm not going to be arrested for animal cruelty. I just have to capture a bunny rabbit and do something absolutely terrible. All my financial stresses will be gone. Yep, sign me up. This is considered mental illness because a lot of the population, something like 20 to 25% of the population of Earth would say yes, and they would do that. This is called, people who think like this are unfit to be part of any society. You can be karmically ascended and still be a criminal. You can still be a jerk. You can still be, out in the cosmos, there's war that happens a lot. But it's like you can't be a soul that's actually going to think in such a horrible way to put something like material gain, power, and money over the life of an innocent being. So that's what we have to focus on. Because that same person who does that can be like, then I'm going to go into the light and rise up and become an ascended being again. And as an ascended being, I'll be perfect again. I'll be free of all my inequities. I'll be gone from the physical life of flesh. Doesn't matter. If you want to hurt a bunny rabbit because you want to make money, then you are somebody who is not exactly fit to be part of this shift. And when we talk about concepts like a possible rapture event, well, we are looking at mass arbitrations of people on Earth. And that's all there is to it. And how do you avoid that? Well, then reevaluate yourself and your connection to the Creator, to the one infinite Creator. And if you are somebody who wants to, for example, hurt an innocent creature for money or anything else like that, then you're a low evolved being who just happens to have found him or herself into a human form. And that's what has to be kicked off the planet. So there's a lot of time between now and then. Evaluate yourself closely. Forget about the false light teachings that have nothing to do with true morality. Evaluate that element of yourself to find yourself in a proper positioning for the shift. Okay. What really will occur? Mass telepathic mental syncing powers across the entire population. It's already happening. Enhanced energetic functions across the body. This includes sensations, even the sense of taste, smell, orgasms. Lots of things like that will all be enhanced. The sexual element, I'm told, it's already enhanced right now. You might be noticing that. But overall, compared to where we began, it'll be 3 times more powerful. Sensations, food, all of that, very powerful. Very, very powerful. So, okay, what else? They could make a coffee here. Coffee helps in a lot of ways because the work I do when I'm channeling or when I'm dealing with massive soul collectives and things like that that are focusing too much power and energy on me because of the work I'm doing, I lose energy. And so caffeine actually vitalizes it. Because especially when the caffeine is being altered a little bit by my team. And I was never a coffee drinker before, and now I am. Okay, where are we? What else will occur? The stealth destruction of the evil occult societies on Earth. How about the occult, very, very powerful, cosmically powerful evils of the Yakuza, the Chinese Mafia, the Khazarian Mafia, A whole bunch of different organizations, but the worst of all, of course, would be the Jewish mafia, and also tied in very well to the Italian mafia. These mafias are not what people think they are. They are actually occult societies who have, over centuries, learned how to harness extremely evil power by harnessing power from cruelty. Together, they're known as the Cabal, but the Cabal is focused predominantly on, let's say, on this world, because there's other iterations out there, but on this world, it's been the Jewish mafias, the Italian mafias, and other groups around them that have been of extreme evil on Earth on the higher levels, and this includes families of extreme riches. So, this has involved the destruction of their occult power. If you want to learn about what they're capable of, go on YouTube and go check out the testimonies of people like Tony Rodriguez and Daryl James, or go on YouTube and type in Dutch whistleblower. This is what the Cabal actually is all about, and the horrors of what they are capable of, and their secret space programs, and things of great terror and evil on Earth. And all of that has been greatly reduced and destroyed through underground wars and battles involving actual divinity, which includes actual literal angels, which exist up there on the higher densities as a kind of manifestation of holy power, which can occur and literally can manifest into people. Okay? An integration into the higher cosmos, where our planet will be taken out of the low density planet. And I have these terrible itches on my nose, I'm sorry. There's no way I can talk and have a terrible itch on my nose at the same time. These are called mutually exclusive situations. Talking in front of the camera, having an itchy nose. So let's see if I'm able to transcend beyond it and ascend to the highest density where I don't have an itchy nose any longer. Let's transcend it. Done. Okay. As I was saying, it involves taking the Earth out of the low density cosmos, shifting it up. What does it look like? Look outside. If there's a low density, look outside, you see constellations, Orion, well, there's going to be one up there as well. Because the higher density universe is also our universe, but as soon as you enter the higher density universe, that's where all the action is. That's where all the civilizations are. That's where it all happens. The low density universe is a universe that is kind of like going out to the boonies. Our low density universe has civilizations. There's civilizations around the Pleiades. There's civilizations here and there. There's Arcturian colonies and little places. But for the most part, the higher cosmos doesn't like to hang out in the lower density universe because it's kind of crappy. It's a place where your energetic power gets depleted. In fact, a lower density universe can be used even as a kind of war engine, like a war machine, because you can toss your enemies into it. Now, some people are out there like, well, this is so terrible because I want to leave this Earth someday, because you can pass away, you can die. 25+% of the population, when they die, they are brought into the higher density by Arcturians or other groups, and they're manifested into the higher density Earth. Well, that higher density Earth is going to be a neighbor of our world until you can look through a telescope and see it. And that's a world of our ancestors. It's a world that the natives actually talk about, this world. And it's a world where you can, shall we say, it's a world where Marilyn Monroe lives there and she's out making films. Humphrey Bogart lives there, he's out making films. That's what it's like. Because we have the option, not everyone takes it, we have the option when we pass away here to be brought there. But how can there be like war? How can there be things happening in the higher cosmos when it's the afterlife and it's supposed to be paradise? Well, that's another false light teaching, which is the thirst for utopia. It's utopianism, is that we have to transcend this life and enter a utopia where nothing bad can ever happen. There's no such thing as negativity or negative emotions. Maybe we are all karmically ascended, which means bad things cannot happen. No, not like this at all. There's conflicts of ideology, conflicts of opinion. The Ashtari and the Aldmari were at war for 8.1 billion years. They ended that war last year, and I was actually getting updates about that and dealing with some of them in real time. And so this is stuff that I was chronicling on my prior YouTube channel. So that shows you that stuff goes on out there. And we have to be realistic about what life is like as it continues beyond this world. When we get out of here, our lifespans change. Death becomes something where it's akin to reincarnation, but we have the powers to transcend into different universes, different types of realities, different worlds that you could never even dream of. That's what it's like being higher density. If you don't fit in with the Earth culture, go into one of the mythical realities. I'm serious. There's realities out there which are like almost, think of them as fantasy realities, magical realities full of fairies, like the world of Myelinos, which is a world that's so intimately connected to our planet, where there's literally fairies that live there and communicate with us and can come down and visit us. So, you can be in a world like this one, and that one, I should say. And these worlds would be, by any definition, heaven. Heaven by comparison to our realities. You just have to have an open-minded heart to know that these are higher density worlds, which are amazing. These are higher density planets where basically it's like those types of civilizations would look and feel to us to be something extraordinary. How do you even get a taste? Well, maybe watch Avatar. Well, Avatar is basically a film where it's like, how do we say it? Because I was getting communication real quick from somebody, because again, I'm a channeler. I keep that open, and sometimes a message will come through. Is that be sure to tell audiences that what we're dealing with are hybrid realities. These hybrid realities, it's such a close, intimate connection between our reality and some of those spirit realities that we think about. And that, being able to travel through those hybrid realities allows a kind of endless, shall we say, and kind of endless adventure, like an endless adventure that awaits our souls. But you have to be open-minded and open-hearted enough to know what that's like, because many people get caught up in one reality and they don't expand into the possibilities that really await us. Because it's okay to be a traveler, a journeyman, or a journeywoman, to be out there exploring and finding the types of places that your heart is really, really fulfilled by. And that's the nature of being able to travel the realities. Okay. What else? So I know I was going on that. I was kind of going on a roll there for a while, but it's important stuff. What really will occur is technologies that open contact. So this happens in time. We're talking about medical, regen, cryopods. Open contact with higher groups, whether it's Ashtari, Aldebarans, Arcturans, like literally around us, being able to admit who they are and watching them change the social political fabric of the world in real time. And it's all a slow rollout process, right? So it's not like it's going to happen one day. You're going to turn on the news, they've landed. Nope. You're going to watch more and more effects of this take place. And if you want to be involved with it, you go out there, you learn mental syncing powers, which anyone can do. Most people cannot do it because they have a subconscious block where they're afraid of it. But I'd say about 35% of the population can do it. And lots of people are doing it right now. So learn about mental syncing. Go out there. You can experience this for yourself. Okay, so how the shift is happening. An extremely distraught, confused, panicky, grief-stricken collective consciousness must approve and accept the changes. Now, 1 second. So I'll get some more information coming in. Okay, now call that a quick break for me to be able to also not get my mouth too dry talking on and on and on. I'm not really a natural at talking so much, but I've had to learn that skill. Okay, and so again, that collective consciousness must approve and accept changes, as we spoke about at the beginning. The primary issue that blocks the shift is that the slow effort by on-the-ground actors integrating the collective consciousness via ripple effects. These are the people, including myself, who are on the ground. Right now, there's 21 people around the world. One of them is the Dalai Lama. These are groups that are literally enabling the shift by integrating the collective consciousness because they understand these principles. They go on little missions and they help people begin, even on an individual level, become aware of these things, and they practice mental syncing, and they can prove and demonstrate to people what is happening. And this is the thing that enables the shift in small ways. I do operations where I go outside. I might find myself going to anywhere, the gas station, and talking mentally to the gas station attendant, then us confirming that we're having a mental communication, and then people learning through mental syncing about what's really happening. It's kind of it's a mental internet network, which feels this way. I mean, you can be there sharing memes with people. And doing this kind of work keeps integrating the world that this stuff is real. Because on the higher densities, people talk mentally all the time. It's us learning how to do it. It's only been since January of last year that people have even had their brains activated to be able to do casual mental telepathy. So the Gaia collective consciousness is extremely powerful. People born upon our world are extremely powerful. More powerful than almost any other world. And that's why every crazy ET species, including those nasty gray aliens, the Zetas, have tried to hybridize us or tinker with us because they want some of that power. Arcturans protect us from those groups. But that's what's out there. Because we're so powerful, our collective consciousness makes it very difficult for the world to shift. Okay. As I said, there's currently 21 people around the world and who are actively practicing mental syncing and working with teams to integrate the collective consciousness. Now, some of these people are in our community. My friend Debbie, or Eb Costello, she's on Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics on Facebook. She is actively out there. They call us the heralds of magic or the heralds of change. And sometimes all of us communicate telepathically and have sort of like sessions or have meetings. There's a woman named Mila, and Mila lives in East Europe. I believe she's in Hungary right now. And we had a big meeting with Mila a couple nights ago through mental telepathy. It's kind of like a big Zoom session. So that gives you an idea of what's happening right now. And so I have a friend named Natalie, and she's in Australia. Mila in Europe. There's a woman named, I believe her name is, I'm trying to remember her name. There's a girl on the ground in Japan. There's a couple people here in the United States, a couple of them in the United States. There's Debbie in England. Interestingly enough, I had a friend who I met who was an Uber driver of mine. He got involved after I was having a discussion with him where he was acknowledging that he's communicating telepathically with everyone, to customers, people all over the place, and he's involved. Sometimes we call ourselves the heralds of Shannara. Why? Because so many of us are in communication to a 6th density world called Shannara, and that's a world where there are literal angels. And when I mean literal angels, I mean the existence of beings like Metatron and Michael and Florella and a host of others, and then there's another angel named Radiance, and they command that world, and they are overseers of, let's say, our cosmos. And to them, shifting Earth is a very big deal. And so many of us are in communication to that world that sometimes we call ourselves the heralds of Shannara. Others can also get involved and join as well. But learning some mental syncing skills, getting in touch with me personally, and saying that you're getting involved, that's the best way to do it. Because once some of us are in physical contact with each other, it really helps push things along. And so those of us who are doing that work are actually causing the shift to happen, right? But the thing is, anyone with an open heart and mind can get involved and do do that type of work, this type of work. And maybe in my next video I'm going to talk more about, again, what that kind of work entails, how people can help. You see, many people have been doing like the mass meditation events on the internet, and those are great. But mass meditation is one thing that unifies the collective consciousness. But what integrates the collective consciousness is when you're making contact with those sleepers, our ET friends. Integrating the collective consciousness is when you are communicating mentally with your friends. Integrating the collective consciousness is helping wean people into the idea that this stuff is okay. You don't have to be scared of people from the cosmos, and that it's about kind of being able to penetrate through these mental blocks that people have. Because if you do this one-on-one with somebody, the entire collective consciousness can feel it. Okay, so how it is happening. Higher forces liberally use the spirit reality to make contact, appearing as fairy lights and many other techniques. So this means wide-scale supernatural events, manifestations, occurrences, etc. Double, triple, quadruple encounters from the positive UFOs, not the Zeta Reticuli. So let me take a quick sip here. Almost getting through this presentation. Okay. So what is the spirit reality? The spirit reality is a great overlay. Okay, so spiritism is an erroneous belief that when we cross over, we enter the spirit non-physical reality, and that's it. And it's superior to the physical reality. Higher forces do not use terms like physical reality. There's the manifested reality, and then there is the mental reality. And this is a spectrum that goes from manifested into mental. And we can move along that spectrum, right? Moving into a higher density, which means we go from the manifested, we go one level over this way, more to the mental, but just a bit. Because it's still going to be a world where you can, sit at your computer and play video games all day if you want, things port over, to use a nerd terminology, things get ported over. So Windows, for example, there's a Microsoft corporation on the higher density Earth, and there's an Apple, who also lives up there, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is up there running Apple computers. You can go there and buy an Apple if you want. Well, hell, maybe Linux. Sure, you got Linux up there as well. So the point is that it's a real physical reality up there, but it's on this higher level. And there's that gradient, there's that spectrum. That's why I was in communication to an angel earlier, trying to reinforce that. It's like we need to keep letting people know that it's a more hybridized reality than the super, super physically constraining reality we're in right now. What's happening is we are being moved into that type of reality. So we're taking the world out and sticking it up into the higher density cosmos, right? But it also means so many forces can use as a tool the mental realities by projecting their consciousness in. And then you'll start seeing lights appear, orbs appearing, manifestations, apparitions, apportations, things appearing out of the sky. It happens to me all the time. I had a little Reese's peanut butter cup appear on my desk. Where did it come from? I don't know. They brought it in. These are the types of things that will start happening as you get involved with this, as they begin making their presence known. And it's always just fun. It's not creepy, because it's not. It's like I communicate telepathically. If I see a big white orb flash and swing by, I communicate. It's like my Arcturian buddy. It's like they're up there in their world or flying around, and they're just projecting their consciousness down through the spirit reality. In my work in the supernatural, I was very interested in a group called the Skull Group. I talk all about them in my first book called Understanding Life After Death. Now, there's a lot in that first book that I got wrong because I was focused on the spirit realities and not the gradients, not the densities. Because I wasn't so sure how it all fit together. It turns out that this whole phenomenon, this whole thing that happened in England, which is called the Skull Group, which was a major paranormal occurrence. You had major scientists like Rupert Sheldrake visiting and having confirmed events, anomalies happening. Just amazing. It was one of the top paranormal events of all time, was the Skull Group of England. How did that even happen? It was Arcturians for the most part. What they were doing is they created in the basement of this home. There was, I think it was Robin Foy and his wife. He passed away recently. They created a shell to protect the collective consciousness. This is what also happens during CE5 events that Stephen Greer is into. Everyone unifies their collective consciousness and builds a wall or a prism around themselves, where there is no longer interference from the greater collective consciousness, which allows things to happen which could not occur otherwise. So if you build that, what will happen is, let's say an Arcturus, a little blue guy, can be up there projecting his consciousness into that seance room, making little blue lights appear, and things fly around, and like awesome things happen. People who are deceased can come from the higher density Earth and project their consciousness and even manifest themselves. It could be someone on the higher density planet, an old celebrity. It could be frickin', I don't know. I'm trying to think. It could be who's an old actor. It could be, let me think. For example, someone. How about Arthur Conan Doyle? Right. That comes to my mind because Arthur Conan Doyle has made a lot of contact with us from the other side. And Arthur Conan Doyle migrated from like a soul collective spirit reality into the density worlds. And Arthur Conan Doyle could be up there someplace in a reclining chair, with his big handlebar mustache, with his eyes closed, projecting his consciousness down to our planet and appearing in one of those seance rooms. And then he'll actually walk up to you and you can shake his hand. These are called manifestation occurrences. I've been to them. I physically encountered deceased people, like in those seance rooms, in particular through a very talented medium named David Thompson and his group, which includes a guy named William Cadwell, who I physically met in a seance room. And that guy has been deceased for the last 100 plus years. That gives you an idea kind of how it really operates. And these powers, these manifestation experiences, are going to go way up, way more common as we move into the fifth density. Many more positive UFO events, excluding the Zeta Reticuli, who are attacked and destroyed on sight if the Arcturians see them. What will not happen? I think this might be our last slide too, almost. The shift will not be cancelled. It cannot. It's an inevitability, and it's been happening especially since the turn of the decade of the 20s. It gets pushed along faster as the collective consciousness integrates. Beware of funny messages you might hear coming through and over-optimistic promises. Over-optimistic promises is that it's going to happen next week. Because people want it really badly, and so what we don't like to see happen is people's expectations going wah, wah. Now you'll see this and hear this on popular vloggers and popular authors. And what you'll hear over and over again is basically, hold on one second, I feel like I'm getting a message. Okay. Okay, back. Okay, so the message I was just getting from my team was that over-optimistic promises are actually, it's actually a friend of mine named Nikki, he's part of this team, is a result basically of people in the collective consciousness framework are desperately wanting this to happen, and they keep using their imaginations to create scenarios in their own minds that this great event, because some call it the great event, is right around the corner, and they keep disrupting the process by saying it's going to happen next week, next month. They might make funny announcements where they say some great villain is going to be sent to jail, this great evil will be undone, this government will be toppled, it's all happening, it's happening tomorrow, it's happening next month. People lose faith in the process this way, which damages the collective consciousness integration process. because it's like the boy who cried wolf over and over again. The truth is that you will not see all this happening on the news because it would flip everyone out. It's all going to maintain itself behind the scenes for the time being until we do get to a point which you'll know about. I say this to my brother Cyrus as well, who often has a lot of doubt because of those false promises, including even overly optimistic timelines that are brought forth from us, from we, the Arcturans, and those within the angelic order, and those of us who are part of the great, let's say, consortium of magical beings and fairies and so forth. That sometimes these overly optimistic timelines are produced because even on our side, we get carried away and think it's going to happen. Cyrus gets his hopes up and finds out that instead of going off to meet his team, the collective consciousness has flushed everything away into a, let's say, a timeline, a dreamscape, a big illusionary prism that keeps the world insulated from the dreaded supernatural, from actually manifesting. And then everyone feels disappointed. Well, to prevent this from happening, we all have to manage our expectations, understand it's going to happen no matter what. There is a timeline. I would say by the end of this year, those who are interested in entering, let's say, an underground reality that's going to blossom will have the option to interact with people not of your world. But those who are not interested, their lives will remain the same. It will not be so noticeable. You will not notice heads of state being walked out in handcuffs. That could cause civil war and global instability. So I am sorry, my friends. And that includes a wonderful author named Edgar Cayce, who is also known as David Wilcock, because he is so excited and wants this to happen so badly, he unfortunately spreads misinformation. It's going to happen next week. No. And there's no Samvartika fires that we can foresee happening. Do not fear this either. But it will happen. And it will happen at first on the underground, and then in time your world will be unrecognized. Give it a year or two at most, and there really will be events happening around the world which will very clearly, unmistakably be happening from the higher and also the divine cosmos. Okay, this is Cyrus's pal Nikki. I'm actually call me a middle manager with some of these operations, and this is just Cyrus speaking as me, because this is me just talking blah blah blah. Yes, Cyrus is implant enhanced and has the ability just to hear us like it's a phone call. How did that happen? Well, that's the funny thing about alien abduction experiences. It's not always a bad thing. We have people on the ground who can communicate directly with us, but you can do it also naturally through mental syncing telepathic powers. Just create a subconscious prompt and write in something like begin communication with a member of my Arcturan spirit team, like it's a book or a notebook, and place it into your mind. Be relaxed in a quiet space when you do it, and try to free your body of anxieties, because those anxieties and tensions block it until you have a nice strong intent and you want to communicate, and look and wait and listen until you hear a voice that's coming in, until you feel a presence come over you. And this is called the natural methods of mind-to-mind communications, and that's the key to getting involved. Okay, this is HQ speaking, and I'll send it back to Cyrus. Okay, so that's what it's like, also communicating through these channels, and it just happens like that. Okay, as I just talked about, or as my friend in the HQ over in HQ says, it's a 1 to 2 years until it's an absolute underground reality and it's completely accessible. I would say maybe sooner than that. And in the unknown but near future, total integration to the higher cosmos, technological revelations. And that's the end of tonight's presentation. So thank you. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button right now, because if you really like what I had to say, what we had to say, it really helps to subscribe because that keeps the channel going. And this is a new channel. YouTube doesn't like new channels, do they? Especially not when you talk about this type of thing. And you can join us on Facebook, Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. If you want to work with me one-on-one, I can bring through my team for you, for donations, of course, including past life readings, information about who you are as a star seed, and so much else. And I'm not going to charge fist and dollar, just throw me something in the tip jar. And that helps keep this channel in operation. So you can email me at cosmicshiftawakening@gmail.com so I can keep doing this kind of work. With that said, I'll see you guys on the next video.